What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on ESPN with a 12-team PPR mock where we will be selecting from that 10th overall position. Should be interesting. We have got the setup all ready to go. And before we kick it off, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe. Let us hear it in the comment section along with any questions you guys might have. We will make sure to answer them all. And lastly, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. And while you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you could want at a great value, from top 150 overall player rankings in standard and PPR formats to individual player bios, tiers, projections, and general fantasy advice. Details in the description. But with that being said, let's get into it and dissect a couple of these picks, because it's already pick 3 and we've got what I would call a head scratcher of a pick. Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, 1 and 2 respectively, but that's not the picks I'm talking about. I'm talking about pick number 3, Travis Kelce, who ESPN had ranked as their 4th overall player. So that was a pick that was made, it wasn't an auto pick. It was decision going into it for Travis Kelce to be the 3rd pick overall, which is absolutely insane in my opinion. If you want to try and make the argument that he should be the first pass catcher off the board, there's some merit to it. But him going ahead of Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, I think that is absolutely insane. And I honestly can't get behind that at all. I have to call that what it is. To me, that is a reach. Now, it is our turn to make a selection, but quickly going over these last couple of picks. Derrick Henry goes 4th overall, Alvin Kamara 5th, Zeke 6th, Barkley 7th, Aaron Jones 8th, and then Jonathan Taylor 9th. So now we've got a decision to make. Do we want to go wide receiver or do we want to go running back? You know what? I'm just going to go running back here. I'm going to go old reliable. I'm going to go with Austin Eckler in full point PPR scoring. I continue to say it. The guy is somebody that I absolutely love. He belongs in the 1st round. If I can get Austin Eckler here and then maybe Antonio Gibson in the 2nd round with that 15th pick overall, I would be very happy. And then in the 3rd and the 4th round, get 2 quality wide receivers. I think that would be a very solid approach. If Antonio Gibson is not available, then I have no problem taking either Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams. Start off very, very balanced. 1 elite running back, 1 elite wide receiver. So we've got options here, and I think we're going to have at least one of those guys that we mentioned available to us, because all 3 of the top wide receivers are still available, which is nice. There is a huge run on running backs. In fact, 11 potentially of the first 12 picks. Okay, so no, 10 out of the first 12 picks have been running backs, other than Travis Kelce 3rd overall, and then Tyreek Hill with the last pick in the 1st round. Then you see Devontae Adams. Can't argue that too much. Pretty good value on Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, 2 of the top, 3 tier 1 wide receivers. Obviously, Devontae Adams no longer really any risk. Not that, in my opinion, there really ever was any in terms of Aaron Rodgers not being available. But Devontae Adams in 2021 will be good to go. And, as long as him and Rodgers are on the field together, that is magical for fantasy football purposes. So now here, I anticipate this pick will probably be Stephon Diggs, and that is the case. So here, I don't want to necessarily go DeAndre Hopkins. I really do like Calvin Ridley, but I'm just going to go running back heavy because, I've seen the kind of trend of running backs that we really like that maybe 2-3 weeks ago were a little bit lower, have been rising in terms of other people's ADPs in their eyes. So I don't think really there's going to be an opportunity to necessarily get somebody like a Chris Carson towards the end of the 3rd round. If there is, great. I wouldn't mind having him. So here I'm just going to go Antonio Gibson, and then we'll get some really good value, I believe, wide receivers in the 3rd round. Because, you see it. Chris Carson is ranked as the 29th overall running back. We've continued to highlight him, and I think I mentioned this before. This happens every single season with several players. Chris Carson is definitely one of them. Around June, July, they're kind of in that 3rd, 4th round range, and then they have a pretty quick rise in ADP come August, where they are probably going to end up being an end of the 2nd round selection, early 3rd round type of pick. So, keep that in mind. Hopefully by now, if you guys have been watching our breakdowns and you've had those early drafts, you've been able to capitalize on some of that value. But after our Antonio Gibson selection, you see Joe Mixon, you see then DeAndre Hopkins, Najee Harris with the 6th pick in the 2nd round. First rookie running back off the board. That will be the case in pretty much 10 out of, well, in 100% of leagues. He's going to be the first rookie running back selected. And honestly, he's edging more and more towards an early 2nd round selection, which I'm not a big fan of, just, purely because, sure, there's going to be volume, but the offensive line is arguably the most important factor for a running back in the NFL, and that isn't really set up for success in Pittsburgh. But there's others that disagree with that. Then Calvin Ridley, 7th overall, followed by A.J. Brown. There goes Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DK Metcalf, and Miles Sanders. Surprised to see Miles Sanders go that early, again, considering that Chris Carson, David Montgomery were still there. So now it's going to be a situation where hopefully we get one of these wide receivers that I'd like to drop to us. I doubt it'll be a Keenan Allen. I doubt it'll be an Allen Robinson. But, if we get a Robert Woods, a CeeDee Lamb, I'd be pretty happy with that, in all honesty. So, yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes with the 9th pick in the 2nd round. Again, him a couple of weeks ago, the guy was going in the middle of the 3rd round. So, again, people coming around to the fact that, oh, yeah, maybe there was some recency bias with the way we were approaching Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And now he's, being ranked higher as he should have been in the first place. So afterwards, DK Metcalf, Miles Sanders, Justin Jefferson with the last pick in the 2nd round, all things considered pretty good value. Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Swift. There goes Keenan Allen with the 3rd pick in the 3rd round. A wide receiver that people, I think should be ranking higher, but there's just so much good value in the 2nd round for wide receivers. I think, kind of through no fault of his own, Keenan Allen finds himself in that early 3rd round range. And that just presents very, very good value. One of our favorite 3rd round selections, 3rd round targets, him and Chris Carson. We'll see if Chris Carson makes it to us, but there's some auto picks here, so I doubt it. So the way it's shaping up, I'm guessing that we're going to have, our choice of like Robert Woods, CeeDee Lamb, Darren Waller, something like that. Or there goes Darren Waller, so not quite. Allen Robinson, unfortunately, goes. He was somebody that I was hoping would fall to us. That was not meant to be. So now I would say we're kind of in right around that range where you're going to see, a tier drop in wide receiver production. Yes, there's some guys that have huge upside, but there's also some question marks. So you see now it's our turn to make a selection. We've got the guys kind of that we mentioned, Amari Cooper, Robert Woods, CeeDee Lamb, Julio Jones is still there. So right now, I think I'm going to go ahead and go with a combination of probably, Robert Woods, CeeDee Lamb, something like that. I'm going for upside here. I also do like Julio Jones. So I'll go Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp is also an option. But I'll go CeeDee Lamb first, honestly. And then I'm all right taking one of the other Ram wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb is somebody that's interesting. Again, I just made a video breakdown of our top 5 must-own wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb was on that list. I think we could potentially see the passing of the baton to CeeDee Lamb this year from Amari Cooper to him as the number 1 wide receiver on the team. And, a guy that was regarded as the number 1 wide receiver prospect last season by a lot of analysts when he was a rookie. Had success, all things considered, even without Dak Prescott. And while Dak Prescott was available, CeeDee Lamb was playing pretty well. I think, yes, there's some risk to it, but he's also a very, very high upside type of player, and I'm all right taking a chance on him at this point in time. And right now, we'll get our wish. We'll either get Robert Woods or, maybe a Julio Jones. I'll go for the safer floor here because there is, again, I'm admitting there is some risk with CeeDee Lamb. So I'll just go with the safer floor. And Robert Woods, we're going to get him. We've got a pretty decent wide receiver combination. I think Woods is a high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1, and probably CeeDee Lamb as well in that conversation. Julio Jones was a guy that would have been my pick if, Robert Woods wasn't available. Cooper Kupp was also on the board because I have him and Robert Woods pretty much one right next to the other in terms of rankings and where they should be drafted. But after a Robert Woods selection, you see Amari Cooper, then Darrell Henderson with the 5th pick in the 4th round. And Darrell Henderson's a really interesting guy because obviously Cam Akers, I continue to say this in every mock draft, he's out for the season. So where is Darrell Henderson's ADP going to end up? I would say the highest is in the 3rd round, but seemingly in the middle of the 4th round is probably in the right place. Deontay Johnson then next. Julio Jones with the 7th pick in the 4th round. To me, that's incredible, incredible value. A high-end wide receiver 2 at worst is what I would say for him. But I think, honestly, you're going to get, low-end wide receiver 1 type of numbers pretty consistently as long as he is healthy. Yes, the Titans are a run-first team, but A.J. Brown was still producing wide receiver 1 numbers last season, and now arguably with one of the best wide receivers in the NFL on the team, and Julio Jones, it's not like he's all of a sudden forgotten how to play football. There's going to be maybe a slightly heavier emphasis on passing the football. Ryan Tannehill has had a lot of success in Tennessee. I think that Julio Jones is, all things considered, again, in terms of destinations, it could have been a lot worse for him. So I'm happy. I would have been very happy getting Julio Jones with the 7th pick in the 4th round. Then afterward, you see DJ Moore with the 8th pick in the 4th, Chris Godwin, Mahomes, first quarterback off the board, Tyler Lockett, Cooper Kupp with the 12th pick in the 4th round. People, do not let that happen in your drafts. That is insane. Josh Allen, Kenny Golladay, Travis Etienne. Unfortunately, TJ Hawkinson goes. Then Jamar Chase, Dak Prescott, Brendan Ayuk, Cortland Sutton, Juju Smith-Schuster. And right now, I'm kind of tempted to go Kyler Murray here, to kind of get just a stud at the quarterback position. I'm looking at the running backs. I'm looking at the wide receivers. There's nobody that I really, really love. And right now is kind of the point in time where I'd be okay, making that transition to a quarterback. I could also go potentially a tight end with someone like a Kyle Pitts, who I probably will go with in the 6th round if he's there. Unless, he is drafted here with one of these next 2 picks. But hopefully that won't be the case. We just have to survive, again, really 4 picks. But in reality, I guess, 4 picks. But so after our selection of Kyler Murray, you see Odell Beckham, somebody that, obviously a huge name while in New York, putting up huge numbers. But since he's gone to Cleveland, not somebody that I'm really all that excited about on a run-first team with a quarterback that isn't forced to spread out the football all that much. Tee Higgins right now is also a very, very good value. Mark Andrews is the next best player available after Tee Higgins. Michael Thomas, this is too early to be drafting Michael Thomas. Let's click quickly on his news blurb here. So the Saints, obviously number 1 wide receiver, expected to miss a few games to open the 2021 season due to injury. But there's all types of, kind of expectations in terms of how many games he'll miss. I think it might be a month and a half, which, would be like 5-6 games. And to me, that means it's way too early to be drafting him in the, what would it be, in the 6th round. Unfortunately, Kyle Pitts is selected here. So that's kind of a bummer. Maybe we should have gone Kyle Pitts first. Instead, I guess we can address the flex position. And right now I'm looking at Tee Higgins, who I really don't mind. I believe Jamar Chase was already drafted. Tee Higgins at this point in time is a very good value. I could go Mark Andrews, but I'm not a big Mark Andrews guy just because I think there's a lot of targets in Baltimore now. And Andrews has never been one to get a plethora of receptions. He's more of a standard suited type of tight end. I'm going to go Tee Higgins here. I don't mind him. I think he's either going to be the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver for the Bengals. Mike Davis is also on the list, but I'm going to go Tee Higgins. I've already got Eckler and Gibson, 2, I would say, very high-end type of running backs. So I'm happy with that. Again, probably could have gone Kyle Pitts first and then go quarterback. We got a little bit greedy with Kyler Murray. That's all right. Live and learn type of situation. We'll dock the draft grade a little bit for that, but at the end of the day, I'm not too worried because, as great as getting Kyle Pitts would have been, it's still a rookie tight end that a lot of people are just assuming, to some extent, even me, that he's going to immediately have success this season. And people are all right saying, oh yeah, he's going to be my for sure, lock and load tight end for the entire season where I'm just going to set it and forget it. And it could be that case. It definitely could be. But I also think it's a situation where we're just putting so many expectations on this dude's shoulders that it's potentially going to set him up for disappointment is what I would say. Not for failure, but for disappointment in the eyes of fantasy football fans. Kind of like maybe what Clyde Edwards-Helaire was last season, him being a first-round selection and then, anything other than probably a top 5 running back finisher would have been disappointing. And obviously with what happened with Le'Veon Bell being brought in and then him getting a little bit nicked up, it was a disaster in terms of you getting your money's worth back. After our selection of Tee Higgins, though, let's break down some of these picks. Mark Andrews, Michael Thomas. I think that was probably an auto pick. Sixth round for Michael Thomas, way too early. I'd be drafting him in like the 8th, 9th, 10th round, and it would depend on what I did with the first couple of rounds and how I feel about my roster. I think he's a luxury pick at this point in time. Don't get me wrong. I think he's absolutely going to be a wide receiver one when he returns. But the question is, when will that be? That ankle has been nagging him for a while now, and it's a situation where there's still a lot of question marks. So I think right now, for that reason, he's kind of a luxury pick. It'd be great to have him for a playoff push for the playoffs, but you got to put yourself in the conversation first, and in order to do so, you need to have a stable roster to begin with. So that's the logic there. Right now, looking at these options, after Michael Thomas, you see Lamar Jackson. Great value for Lamar Jackson. 6th pick in the 6th round. Again, just showing you that ESPN has their quarterbacks extremely devalued. Chase Edmonds then, followed by Chase Claypool, Kareem Hunt, Mike Davis is off the board, Brendan Cooks, who's becoming a very good value pick right now because it's trending towards Deshaun Watson playing this season. And if that's the case, Deshaun Watson is also an absolute steal at this point in time because, if he plays, the guy is a borderline top 5 quarterback, again, almost guaranteed because of what he can do with his legs, just because of the pure passing upside. And Brendan Cooks is arguably going to be the wide receiver one on that team, obviously without Will Fuller. So both guys right now are screaming value, but I don't anticipate that will last all that long because if things trend this way and it's looking like Deshaun Watson plays in week 1, his ADP will skyrocket, and so will Brendan Cooks. So keep that in mind. Right now, they are definitely a gamble, but a gamble with an extremely high upside. James Robinson afterwards with the 12th pick in the 6th round. Laviska Shenault, Robbie Anderson, good value for Robbie Anderson, Jerry Jeudy, DJ Shark, Russell Wilson, David Johnson, Dallas Goedert, Justin Herbert, and then Will Fuller. So it is back to us here. I really like Antonio Brown at this point in time. I really like Damien Harris as well. In fact, I'll probably take Damien Harris first because we only have 2 running backs right now. We've already got 3 wide receivers. I think he's the next best available running back, and I'll add him right now. I think he's got very nice upside. We're kind of forgetting about the tight end position, but we've entered that window where it's a situation that, you've kind of punted on the position. I don't believe in Noah Fant with no quarterback. Robert Tonyan, if he gets all those touchdowns again, sure, he'll be a top 5 tight end, but that's pretty tough to duplicate. Sure, Aaron Rodgers is back, but that doesn't guarantee success. Randall Cobb is now there, so that's going to take away some targets from Tonyan. Mike Gesicki, again, a lot of pass-catching options. Jonnu Smith, he's going to have to contend with Hunter Henry. Irv Smith, a sleeper. Probably, again, I continue to mention guys like Cole Kmet, guys like Jared Cook that I personally really like. After our Damian Harris selection, we see Devontae Smith, Curtis Samuel, Tom Brady. So right now, I'm just going to hopefully queue up Antonio Brown, get him and start to fill out our bench. I think a great value pick at this point in time in the, 8th round. I love that pick for the squad, just kind of getting even more depth. Honestly, I might even, with the way things are right now, have Antonio Brown ahead of Tee Higgins. I think both guys are in the wide receiver 2 kind of conversation. Then you kind of go matchups with them, see how it plays out. But I really like Antonio Brown. Now we just kind of have to make one more selection in terms of tight end and then get another depth piece. And we'll be looking pretty good here. So right now, just kind of quickly grading out our roster. I love Eckler and Gibson. I love their upsides. So I feel pretty good about there, especially in PPR formats. CeeDee Lamb, Robert Woods, not necessarily any for sure wide receiver ones, but I think they both have that upside. So I'm happy with it. Again, not that much of a big drop off at the wide receiver position. Kyler Murray probably should have, again, gone Kyle Pitts first, so I'm going to dock myself a couple of points for that because, again, you still see our tight end spot is currently empty. Tee Higgins we were able to get, so very good value there. I think our bench also full of very good value with Damien Harris, Antonio Brown. So probably right now I think we're sitting at a B-, B type of roster. Nothing all that sexy, but I think a very solid roster that would compete and that would have a very high chance of getting into the playoffs. And then obviously, if you set up yourself for that type of success, then you look at waiver wires, things like that, in-season pickups, trades, etc. So again, all things considered, I wouldn't mind this roster. Kyler Murray gives you quarterback 1 upside, so that's nice. But right now, what I'm hoping for at the tight end position, looking at these guys, I know he's going to be ranked a lot lower, but Jared Cook is my next probably best tight end. I think he's going to fill that Hunter Henry role for the Chargers. I guess we could go Robert Tonyan as a guy with big touchdown upside, but I'm not all that excited about him, now with Randall Cobb there. So let's quickly look at, all these potential players, potential picks. Joe Burrow still available is absolute incredible value. So that's something to point out. Running back wise, nobody that I necessarily love. So just continuing to scroll down a little bit. Let's look at our wide receivers. Again, Russell Gage, not a bad pick at this point in time. I would say that. Honestly, let's just go Russell Gage right now. I think, obviously, without Julio Jones, he is a winner in that offense. Darnell Mooney, also somebody that I continue to mention. Traquan Smith, potentially somebody without Michael Thomas. But we'll be able to easily get our pick at tight end at this point in time. Robert Tonyan was selected. So here, I'm just going to go with my guy and a guy that I believe in, Jared Cook. It's not going to be, it's not going to be always pretty, but I think you're going to get, especially in PPR, between 8 and 10 points from him, which if you've waited so long for the tight end position at this point in time, you could do a lot worse is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going Jared Cook. And at this point, forget about the rankings. When you get outside of the top 10 tight ends, it's all a crapshoot. And you just look at the upside, you look at the situations, and Jared Cook is in a good situation. So he is our pick here. We have got the tight end position taken care of. If I were to queue this up and go a little bit further, just because at this point everybody hasn't gotten an auto pick, I would get another tight end for depth. But right now, like I said, probably B-, B type of grade on this draft. I'll go B- because of the tight end position and because of the fact that we don't necessarily have a clear-cut wide receiver number 1. But hey, let me know what you thought in the comment section, along with any questions you guys might have. And again, if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. While you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you can want at a great value. Details in the description. But with that being said, we'll see you guys in future videos.